Hello,
everyone.
everyone.
Welcome to the Spirit Lounge podcast with me, David.
And me, Glenda.
And we are psychic mediums from both sides of the pond.
I'm in Australia.
And I'm in the UK.
And we're joining forces to discuss and talk about the world of psychics, mediumship, and all things spiritual. We might even throw some random life topics in there too.
So come with us now on our podcast journey. Let's see what's happening in the Spirit Lounge for today's episode. Well, hello, lovely listeners, and welcome to this episode today. Hope you're all doing well. And I'm here, as usual, with my co-pilot, Glenda. Hello, Glenda.
Hi, David. Hi, listeners. How's
How are
things,
you?
David? Yeah, all good.
Yeah, all good. All good on this Monday. So, welcome to this podcast again, people, and thank you as always for listening and for tuning in. And just to say, we appreciate the comments you've been leaving, the comments you've been sending to Glenda. We do read them and we do try to respond as much as we can as well. But we appreciate all the comments and the feedback that we're getting, and we're just glad you're enjoying the podcast. So last week we spoke about signs from spirits, and we thought we'd kind of continue that theme by talking about the fears around it, because people can be quite fearful of this work if they don't understand it correctly. They can be fearful of negative spirits. If they see or feel something in their house they think is automatically a haunting and it's not necessarily. So we're going to talk a little bit about that and about our experiences with it. So again, as we always say, what we talk about is very much our opinion based on our own personal experience and viewpoints with it as well. So Glenda, what are your thoughts around the fear around mediumship? Have you had people come to you expressing their fears or having questions about, what is this? What is that? Is it scary? Should we do this? Should we do that?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's really important that we address it. And we're just going to state that neither David or I are paranormal investigators either.
Yeah.
So, with mediumship, psychic work, I've had people kind of say, "Oh, I don't like that. It's pretty scary. Oh my God, you don't know what you're bringing through," or there's still this taboo with our work. People still don't want to let anyone else that know that they've had a reading. It's very hush hush.
Yeah.
It's weird, Oh, if I have a reading, I tell everyone. I'm just like, oh my God, I had a reading. Like, I got this, I got that. You know what I mean? I get excited. Not that I have readings that often, but yeah, it's this thing about I can't let anyone know I'm going for a reading. I can't let anyone know I'm getting psychic work or, or that I've actually got a problem. Maybe that's just it. There's such a taboo and stigma with our work, and it needs to be broken because there shouldn't be any fear around it. We actually are helping bring the love through and the healing through. So, with the mediumship, it's all about love. It's all about healing. It's all about connection. It's all about sometimes having closure or understanding why someone did something when they were
Yeah.
here that hurt you.
Mm.
As for the negative, I have never, ever, ever connected to anything low vibrational.
Yeah.
And the way that I explain it is and you know what? There's lots of healers out there. I do healing as well, but I don't do the 3D, 4D, 9D fucking bullshit that people do. And, I'm sorry if I offend anyone that's right into that. I don't do that. I don't get into that. When I connect straight to source, which is in heaven. I connect with the angels. I connect with my guides, and my guides live in heaven. They don't live in anywhere else. No other portals. I'm not opening other portals. I'm not going through anything. We connect directly to heaven. So your loved ones are in heaven, and that's who we are connecting with. So we are not connecting with, I don't know, a poltergeist, or I don't know, some of this bullshit that they put on TV in America, we don't connect with any of that stuff. Um, the negative that I've found in some of that is maybe they weren't the nicest person when they were here.
Mm.
And the only thing that I've actually got is I'm sorry from that connection. I've never got any bad person that's come through. I've never got any of that. So I don't understand connecting to anything negative. There is no negative with our work. We vibe really high,
Yeah.
when we can make
Yeah.
our energies are really high. So we don't make those connections. Look, I've done clearings in houses before that have had things in the houses. Have I ever been afraid? No, because I'm in charge.
Yeah.
I'm in charge. I call the shots. So
Mm.
yeah, I've walked in a house and I've had Joe Blow standing at the door with his arms crossed, saying, "What do you want?" Oh, well, let's just have a conversation, you know? And just having a conversation with their spirit person and letting them know that
Mm.
they're not here to take over your house. This is their house now. Um, this is where they're having children and they're building their foundations and their life. So you need to stop what you're doing and off you trot.
Yeah.
So, I've never encountered any problems. Sure, I've gone into places that have got some really, really heavy energy due to what's happened in the place. And, but to say I've had anything negative, sure, I've had in places like places that have had mass killings in them, murders. Sure, I've had felt things physically on me, but again, I'm in control. But within our work as a psychic medium, I've never encountered anything negative. What about you, David?
No, exactly the same as you. And sometimes I think the fear-based mediumship, so it does happen, and I have had horror stories from other people, which I'll go into in a minute. But
Mhm.
um, I think because of what's put out there on, as you said, on TV, films, social media, although we know it's dramatized and it's not necessarily a real thing, people still buy into it, and I don't know why.
Yeah.
Because again, with this work, with the mediumship, our intention, as you've already said, is to work with people. Yes, your family members. If your family member did not hurt you in life, they're not going to hurt you in death. And we're bringing them through to bring you that sense of connection, and as you said, the healing, and whatever else you want to bring in there. And it's funny because when I first started developing this, and I told my dad about it, my dad said to me, "Well, do you not want to do something a little less scary?" And I said, "Well, there's nothing scary about it.
Mm.
If my grandparents, your parents came through, what do you think they're going to come through with an axe?" So no, I said, they didn't do that in lifetime. Not going to do it in death, are they? So I think there is just a perception about, because you're talking about, I don't know, in some people's minds it's all about the ghosts and the ghoulies, and it's not that at all. But in some people's minds it is. That's where I think the fear comes from. And look, if we're being real about it, everything has an opposite. So where there is good, there is bad. Where there's positive, there's negative. So everything does have an opposite. But it just, as you said, it depends on your intention and that we are in control of it. So, because people do say to me as well, where do the evil people go when they pass over? Do they go to the same place as my people do? I'm like, no, your grandmother's not going to be sat up there with Jack the Ripper having a cup of tea and then slashes her throat. No, that's not going to happen. They're on different planes, right? Because again, if we know when we go to spirit, we go to, my belief is when we go to spirit, we go to the level or plane or tier, whatever you want to call it in spirit, which resonates with our soul. So,
Mm.
because we're part of a soul family, if you want to put it that way, you'll be up there with your loved ones on that same plane, right? However, there are also really evil people that once lived on this planet, like, Jack the
Hmm.
Ripper, Hitler, all the other evil
Hmm.
people that you can think about. They go to spirit as well. They're not exempt from it because that's where we all go. However, they will go to a different plane, but the lower
Hmm.
planes in spirit, the lower levels in spirit, they will not be mixing with your loved ones upstairs, as I call it. So they do still exist because they existed in life. So why wouldn't they exist in death? Of course they are going to. But the way we work and the intention that we have is to always work with the high vibration, with that high vibration energy, those high vibrational spirits, so your family members. I'm not lowering my vibration to talk to those evil people because I don't want to. And so,
Hmm.
because that's not where my intention is, that's never going to come through. And
Yeah,
also, just to touch on I'm not opening portals, as you said earlier on as well, Glenda. We don't open portals. That isn't how mediumship works. And that could be a whole other topic, which I just thought of, about the mechanics
mm,
of mediumship and how mediumship actually works. Spirit people are not coming through portals. They are not, they're not, there's none of that. It's through the mind. Our communication with spirit is through the mind. It's mind to mind communication. So they're not sat on my shoulder or sat next to me at my desk when I'm reading because they're in my head. So it's not that they jump out in front of me and go, boo, right, I'm here. That's not what it, that's not how it works. So of course, as I said, yeah, there are going to be those more negative people that exist in the spirit world, but we're not communicating with them because that's not the point of mediumship. That's never
no,
been the point of mediumship. The point of mediumship is to prove or give evidence of life after death and to bring through those connections and those messages. That's what mediumship is about. So when people say to me, "Is it not scary? You're not scared of what you're going to connect to?" No, I'm not, because
exactly.
your loved ones are not going to want to hurt me unless they were really evil, in which case I'm not going to connect to them anyway. And my loved
Mm.
ones not going to hurt me. Why would they? Again, they never did in life. They're not going to do it in death. So there's nothing scary about it.
But you
Does that make
have your
sense?
guides that protect you. Do you know what I mean? It's like
Yeah.
we talk about what's the role of the guides. People talk about, oh, do you have a gatekeeper and all of this sort of stuff. I just don't get into all of that. Do you know what I mean? It's like
Hmm.
my spirit folk are up there. I don't think my mum's going to let anyone do anything wrong to me.
Exactly.
Do you know what I
Yeah.
mean? It's
Yeah.
like, so what are you worried about? Like, it's just, I
And the
think
trouble, sort of,
it's
trouble
the
is, this,
intention.
yeah, and the trouble is, there's so many contradictions in this work anyway.
Yeah,
Because
absolutely.
even when it comes to protection, right? This
Hmm.
and this is the big thing that, well, not necessarily a big thing, but it's something that's discussed quite a lot in the spiritual community is about protection and putting that light of protection around you. Now, we all have different opinions on it, right? Um, because people do ask me, do you protect yourself before you work? And my answer is no. But here's
I
what.
know.
But here's why. Here's just to explain why. So, if I go back to my early development, when I was training in a spiritualist church, before anything we did a grounding and protection because we were taught we need to keep ourselves grounded and we need to protect ourselves because we never know, what we're opening up to, which now sounds a bit ridiculous. Now I've been doing this for quite a while, why that was said in the first place in a spiritualist church. Um, and so I practiced that protection for maybe about 3 years into my early development. And you come to realize that, or you question yourself, you start to question yourself, well, why am I doing protection? What am I protecting myself from?
Hmm.
Because again, if we're setting the right intention to connect with people's loved ones, then where is the danger?
Exactly.
Where is the need for protection? Now, I'm not saying to people listening that you shouldn't do protection. If that makes you feel better, then you do it, right? I'm not saying don't do it. But what I'm saying is that there's, from my opinion, my perspective, there is no need to do it when you're doing mediumship because if I'm on a platform in a church, I'm not, again, talking to evil people. I'm talking to the loved ones in the congregation. So why am I protecting myself from spirit? Why? What's the point in that? But I think when you first start teaching or start learning, I should say, the teaching can be very much fear-based, which I don't like. So I never teach like this. Like you must ground yourself, otherwise you'll feel yourself away with the fairies, and you must protect yourself so you stop any evil people coming. No, that's not going to happen.
Mm-mm. No, we
There are
don't teach that.
there are certain circumstances like Ouija boards. We'll come on to that later, but in general with mediumship, it's just my opinion. We don't need to protect ourselves because why? If we're connecting to light and we're connecting to love, we say love and light, or not part of the love and light crew, but you know what I mean. Um, then where is that protection? I just think sometimes the teaching needs to change, and we're not fear-based teaching. We should
Hmm.
be teaching honestly, and not putting the fear into people. You shouldn't do this, shouldn't do this, shouldn't do this, because it's not necessarily. Well, it's not my reality anyway. Because say I'm going into my ninth year of doing this work, and I've never in those years connected to anything evil or negative.
Same.
That's just not where
Abs
my mind is.
exactly. I'm the same, and I before I begin to work, I do say a prayer.
Oh, I do
Or
says speak spirit as well. Yeah,
right? Speak to spirit. Whether you call it a prayer, whether you call it an intention, whatever you want to do. For me, I'm just setting that
yeah,
intention of I'm ready to work. It's
yeah,
like saying, okay, I'm ready
yeah,
to work. It's like, going to work and you're clocking in.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
That's us. We're clocking in with spirit. So I'm setting a prayer. I'm ready to go. I'm saying to my team, okay, round them up. I'm ready to go. Whoever I'm ready to read, go and get their folk, their spirit
yeah,
folk. They're going to come forward. Just have this conversation with spirit. You've got to have a relationship with spirit. That's the thing. So they know what you're doing. They know what's happening within your life. Um, and then at the end, I always say thank you.
yeah. I
Whenever I
do.
get a sign, whenever I finish this spirit, thank you, spirit. Like, thank you for working with me. And
Mm,
then, you can always, okay, I want to work like this today, or help, let's work on this today. Let me get better at this today. There's got to be that conversation that's had with spirit. So it depends what your intentions are when you do the
absolutely.
work that you're doing. So
Yeah,
if you're out there connecting to weird shit, you're going to get some weird shit
yeah, yeah,
at the end of the day. But when we work, it's just like bang, ready to go. It's
yeah.
just let's go. We don't even sit in the power. We don't do
No, I
meditation. We
don't
don't
do
do
that.
any of that.
Mm.
So at the beginning, and I think it's important for people that are starting off to do that practice, mainly is because you need to shut down that mind, that busy
Yeah,
mind,
yeah,
because it's going 100 mile an hour and you're thinking about your shopping list, you're thinking about what bills you've got to pay, you've got to get to such and such. That's when you should be sitting in the power. That's when you should be, like quieting your mind so you can
yeah,
feel and hear spirit. But
yeah,
when you've been doing it for so long, we don't do that. So we don't need protection.
yeah.
We don't do protection.
No. And again, if mediums and mentors are putting out there, we've got a spirit guide and you've got a protector guide. If it's saying that, then why are we saying, well, not we're not saying, but why are people then saying you must protect yourself? Why? You just told me I've got a protector guide who's going to protect me. So
Mm.
why the contradiction? Why tell me that I'm fine because I've got a spirit guide who's going to look after me, and then say, well, you must protect yourself in case you can invite anyone in. But so
Yeah,
what is it? Which one is it? Let's not contradict ourselves anymore. Do you know what I mean? But again, it's that
yeah,
fear-based teaching which I don't like. Um, so I mean, people could do whatever they want to do, right? But that's just my opinion. You don't need to do that. You don't need to do that. Um, but I think there is a difference though when you're doing mediumship, which we've just talked about, but then
mm,
you're going out there doing things like, paranormal investigations and seances and Ouija boards.
mhm,
I think that's a different kettle of fish there. Because I think people put the paranormal and mediumship together. Well, actually, in my opinion, there are two different things.
yeah,
Mediumship is about messages, connections, bring that evidence of survival, where the paranormal is going is I think maybe it's just the way it's been put out there, way the media portrays it, but the paranormal is all for me. watching TV shows back in the day, it's always perceived to be something a bit spooky and a bit creepy. Well, that is not what
Yeah.
mediumship is. Mediumship is not
It's
spooky, it's not creepy, it's about love
it
and
all
whatever else we've said.
it almost looks like they're antagonizing them. Do you
Yeah,
know what I mean? It's like
yeah,
coaxing them. Come on, do something. You're
yeah,
antagonizing them,
yeah,
you know, poking and prodding them. But
yeah.
that's
Calling
not
them
what we
names. I'm
do.
like, how
Yeah,
would you like it if I went out there and called your grandmother a nasty name? How would you like if I went out there and said, "Oi, you old bag, where are you?" Da, da, da. You wouldn't like that at all. I think these people
yeah,
forget that whoever they're antagonizing they're still spirit people. They still are connected to people that are still living, probably. They're people's family members. But you're going out
yeah.
there poking and prodding, antagonizing, calling them names and all this business, and it's like, no. If you're going to
It's
do a
not for
paranormal
me.
investigation, do it with respect. Do
Yeah,
it with the intention of um, giving that proof of survival, but in a more physical sense. Because that's what we're talking about, really, is the more physical side of mediumship. But I think that's where the fear comes in a bit more, because people see a lot more of that on TV than they do actual mediumship. So people, I guess, tend to put the two together. Well, if
mm,
that's what paranormal is, then mediumship must be scary as well. No, the complete opposite. I think it's just how it's perceived and how it's put out there where the fear base comes from. So it might go into a haunted building, must be scary. And do you know, and I don't know if I actually believe in haunted buildings. I don't know. Although I do the work, I don't know about you, Glenda, but I don't know where I sit with that, to be honest. Um,
oh, I
whether
do a bit. I do a bit because of what I've seen.
Yeah, so I don't know whether I don't know because the way my mind, it's just the way my mind works, and people know that I'm slightly skeptical as well. If even though I do this work, I'm skeptical of a lot of things. Um, yeah, I don't know if
I
I've
don't
heard
know
many.
if they're mean or if they want to cause harm. I think it's more that they want to be known that they're there. They want some sort of connection. That's what I feel with a lot of them. They want to be heard or seen or felt,
Yeah,
not necessarily to scare someone. But you know what? There's been some things that have been pretty scary for some people.
yeah,
So,
but then I don't know. I think sometimes a lot of the fear that we have comes from ourselves and comes from our
yeah,
mind, which amplifies certain things and makes things a bit scarier. I just to put an example on that. Um, a couple of people, mediums that I knew, went out to someone's house because they felt they were being haunted in their house, and so the mediums went in there and had a look around and felt nothing, and just felt people's loved ones in the room, but didn't feel anything
yeah.
haunting or scary. And I heard something in the kitchen, and the occupiers went, "Oh, see, there it is. It was the fridge turning on." But they thought that was that was haunting. But it goes to show that it's not. It was just their minds were amplifying something. Maybe they'd gone through something personally or whatever that had kind of created that feeling of them being haunted. But wasn't it? It was just the fridge turning on and off. But their minds put it down to haunting
That's it. And
because there's something going on in their head, very personally going
exactly.
on in the home that have created that. So that's why I'm very dubious of hauntings or not. Because in my mind, I think why would a spirit want to haunt a building? Why would they want to haunt somewhere? Why have they not gone back up to spirit, as we always say they do, right? We always
Hmm.
say when you pass, you
Hmm.
go to spirit. So why would we want to hang around? I'm
Hmm.
not. So that's where my mind is. Oh, actually, I've just been reminded of something else as well, but I'll say that in a minute. Come on,
And
Glinda.
the other thing is people say to me, oh, can you come and clear the energy of the house? It's really heavy, it's dense, blah, blah, blah. So then my question is, what's going on in your house? Because you bring the energy.
Mm,
Are there fights going on in the house? Is there disagreements? Is there, you know, we bring the energy in. So, what's going on that you're creating such a negative energy in your house? Fair enough if there's sickness or if someone's passed away or, that sort of thing. The energy can be a little bit dense, there's
yeah,
sadness in the house. And that's great to do a clearing and that sort of thing. And I clear my house all the time. I feel like, oh, what's going on here? Or if I've had a bit of a dummy spit, with the kids, or there's a fight or something, oh, I've got to clear that energy.
Yeah.
Um, but we bring a lot of that energy in. The
Yeah.
people that have been living in that rental before you bring that energy in. Like
Yeah.
the house that we had previous to our home that we own was a military house. And I tell you, this is before I kind of opened up and did a lot of this stuff, but I could sense something was going on. Um, I lost a lot of my health in that house. My husband hurt himself. I had multiple surgeries in that house. So if you're listening out and these sort of things are happening, I kind of think you should do a clearing of your house. Um, we kept getting sick. One day I walked into the house and the whole ceiling was covered in ants. And it almost looked like a scary movie. It's like, where the fuck did that come from? I'm telling you, I could not see the ceiling. And then the cats kept coming over. It was like the graveyard. They were coming to the house to die or
No.
to get help, right? These injured cats would come and I would help them, and then they'd be on their way once I helped them. But none of them died because I always helped the animals. And I felt like there was like a portal at that house or something like that. But then I'm kind of going back to reality, back to me kind of making sense of this. How many people have lived here before me? You think of a
Mm.
military house. There is so many military families that bust up, that break up. The husband's away, the wife's here. There's always cheating going on with military people. Not saying everyone, but there's a lot of circumstances. The husband's are the way, the wife will play. Um, and, there's lots of fights. Usually it's the woman that's at home with the children struggling because the husband is, deployed. There's a lot of anxieties there. Um, the husband comes back or the wife comes back, not being sexist here, with PTSD. Then, the alcohol takes over. So think about who's lived in your house before you, the
Mm.
rentals. Think about the energy those people have brought to that house before you even walked in there.
Yeah.
So the house absorbs this sort of energy. So, and then the people instantly think it's a haunting. No, it's not. There's some shitty energy in the house
Yeah.
because of the people that have been in it. So
Yeah.
don't think automatically it's a haunting. And if you're seeing things moved in that, maybe it's just your loved one come to visit to try and get
Yeah.
your attention. It's
Yeah.
like, how many times do you bring through? Do you understand that your keys are being moved? You can't find your keys. Or this has been, the pot plants have been moved in the house. That's your loved ones.
Yeah.
We as humans go to the negative straight
Negative
away.
straight away.
Oh,
Yeah, that's just
it's a
human nature,
freaking
isn't it?
haunting. It's a
Yeah.
haunting. No, it's
No.
not.
Because I always say, look, your house is not going to become haunted for no reason. So
Exactly.
if you've been in your house 10 years and you suddenly start feeling things, your house is not going to suddenly become haunted unless you've done something particularly evil in that house. But it's not going to become haunted overnight. Like when I read for my mum once, and well, I didn't read her, but I was picking up on things around her, and I said I've got a nan here, and she's telling, and she's making me aware you're seeing dark shadows in the house, and she went, yeah, I saw a couple the other day. I said, well, that's nan. That's
Yeah,
you're not suddenly
exactly.
got a dark entity entered your house, mum. That's just Nan's way of showing herself to you because she knows you're going to see it,
Yeah,
because you're going to
that's
notice
it.
it. It's not evil just because it's dark. I think when you hear the word dark, people automatically think, oh, it's dark equals evil and light
Mm.
equals good. Not always the case. But yeah, so yeah, as you said, Glenda, energy can get stagnant, and that's why when I
Yeah.
look at haunted buildings, I think of it more from that point of view, which is the point I was
Sure.
trying to get to, but I wasn't quite getting out of my mouth correctly. When it comes to haunted buildings, I feel it's more the energy that's in that place that's been created rather than spirits coming back to spook them during a paranormal investigation. Because why would they not do it any other time? Why is it only in a paranormal investigation that they would come back and do that? So that's where my mind goes with that. It's more the energy. I think it's called the stone tape theory, where the energy is in the imprint of the building. And when you
Yeah.
go to power to investigate these places, it's almost like a cassette tape. You press play, and it's just a replay of those things that have happened, which is what they're picking up on, which is my personal opinion of it. But again, saying
Yeah.
that,
That makes sense.
I've never done it myself. I've never done a paranormal investigation myself. But that's just my theory of it. Because again, people's loved ones are in the spirit world.
Mhm.
I do believe that. I don't know about this. Now I'm going to might contradict myself slightly. But what is your thoughts, Glenda, on? I mean, I don't believe in purgatory. I don't believe in stuck spirits. But there's a thought I have about sometimes some spirits can choose to try and keep themselves here because of unfinished business or they're attached to a certain thing. And it's only because of an experience that I once had which changed my mind about the whole thing. So I don't think spirit can purposely get stuck. Again, they transition to spirit. That's the natural process of things. But I do feel that some can try. I don't want to say grounded necessarily, but they can choose to keep themselves more earthbound. I don't want to get the whole thing about earthbound spirits versus this spirit or
I
whatever.
but this is where I kind of go, and that's a lot to do with murders and unsolved mysteries.
Mm,
Is that where we're kind of talking about? But if we're talking about that, then why, when we do a reading, we can connect to them? If
and that's
Do
what's
you know what I
whole.
mean? To me,
Yeah, yeah,
to
yeah.
me, I just go, no, I wouldn't be connecting with it
I
because
know
I only
it's whole
kept
contradiction, isn't it?
absolutely. So, um, there's, I don't know, I'm not fully trained in all that sort of stuff. I train to
No,
talk to the dead, and they've got to be dead for me to
yeah.
talk to them.
So the
So,
only it's it's based on
and
experience. Gone.
if they're murdered, the
Yeah.
ones that I've connected to don't hold that grudge, don't have
No.
that do you know what I mean? But they go to spirit for healing because so often they come through and go, just let it go. You're the one that's still holding on to it
Mm,
because your loved one has been murdered. We're the ones that hold on to that. We're the ones that want the karma and the
yeah.
justification and them to go to jail for what they did and all that sort of stuff. But when they're in spirit, they don't. They don't hold on to
No,
that.
exactly.
So I've never connected to anything that's kind of earthbound, if I can say that.
Yeah.
But I've had some weird situations where I have connected to spirit that I don't know why and why they're connecting to me when I'm not doing a reading. So I had a little girl sitting on the lounge. This is a few years back, sitting on the lounge, and I felt this energy of a young girl. And I'm like, oh, okay. I'm like, and I got the taste of, those musk sticks, those lollies that taste like musk. The pink
No.
ones. Do you get them pink ones? Over here, they have these musk sticks and they're pink and they taste like, musk.
Oh.
So, right, I could taste that. I'm like, oh, okay. And I was just sitting on the lounge and I'm like, well, who are you, sweetheart? Because I don't have anyone coming. I thought sometimes spirit used to cross the boundaries, come a bit earlier, and I'd tell them to go away and come back. This little girl, I said, I don't have any readings. And she says, you're going to talk to the person I need to connect with later on. And I thought, oh, okay. Well, I'm only going to watch um, my son play football at that time, or my daughter play football. Um, so off to the football. Anyway, it was cold and windy at the football, and I sat over to one side, away from all the crowd, and she was still in my head, and I'm thinking, she said, I'm going to talk to someone that is connected to her. So I sitting there and I'm thinking, well, I'm sitting here alone. The next minute I get this message from my girlfriend. She goes, I can see you sitting up on the hill. Come sit over this side with me. There's a bit of a wind block because it was so cold. So off I went, sat down next to her, and the first thing I thought was, oh shit. it's for her. And she gets creeped out with this stuff. So how am I going to tell her? So I said to her, so I got to talk to you about something. She's like, oh, what? You know that shit scares me. And I'm like, I know, but I just need to figure out who this is. I said, I've got a little girl in spirit and she's come and I need to give you a message. I need to talk to you. She's here. And she goes, I don't know anyone. I said, you don't know, you haven't know anyone that died, a little girl passed? She goes, no, no, I don't know what you're talking about. Okay. So I was just like, okay, left it at that. The next day, she messages me and she goes, you're not going to believe it. My nephew's just had a car accident. He's died in the car accident. He's up there with his daughter now. So that was the daughter coming to her.
Yeah.
So that's a bit woo-woo. Do you know what I mean? It's like,
Yeah.
whoa. So I've had those sort of experiences
Yeah.
that blow me away.
Mm. Yeah, I've had that's why I kind of question about the whole grounded thing. Can they keep themselves here or not? So I'll give a couple of examples. So the the first this one was I had been doing a read. I can't remember, it was for the I read from Mother and a Daughter, but at separate times, and I didn't know at the time they were mother and daughter. Um, and I'd picked up with both of them. A little boy'd come through it. I kept hearing Ben, 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 and if I talk about the reading I did with the mother said to me, he keeps coming up. It's come up in a previous reading. This little boy called Ben, but it's to do with my daughter. And so I gave her a load of evidence, so I knew it was definitely for her. And when I spoke to the daughter, what had happened was in her house, she feels, because she's quite intuitive as well, she has felt this little boy in her house. It's not doing anything negative. He's quite playful, and she can even run along the landing and that kind of thing on a regular basis. But she felt quite comforted by it, and she'd also been given the name Ben by someone else as well. And so I told my friend about it. Actually, my friend who I was talking to about it. These two girls were friends of hers, so that's where the link happened. And so I read for the mother or was I reading for the daughter? I can't remember what order it was in. But during the reading, um, I'd felt him come in again, and I said, "I'm hearing Ben again." And I saw the little boy in my head, and I managed to find out why he was hanging around, which is a whole other story. I won't go into it, but I gave her the reason why he was around her daughter's house, and for whatever reason, I'd never had done it before. No, I hadn't done it before. No, maybe I had, but I said to him, Ben, now I've got your message across. It's okay to go up there. It's okay to cross yourself over. You don't need to hang
Mm.
around here because this is not your home. Your mummy's in spirit. And I showed him towards a door with a bright white light behind it, and he disappeared from the reading. And I thought, oh, it's disappeared on me. And I wasn't sure what I was doing, to be perfectly honest. So I gave the mum, so I gave the mum the rest of the message. Anyway, a week later, I spoke to my friend who knew these two, and I said, "Have you spoke to the girls? Has Ben been back?" And she went, "No, he's disappeared,
Oh, he's gone.
and it's never been back." And this is
Yeah,
going back
see?
three, 4 years ago. So then I think, so did he need? I'm hear about rescue mediumship as well, but I'm like, so was he? Did he keep himself grounded here for the purpose of getting that message across and then he was ready to go? Or did I help him cross? So does it mean then that spirits can hold themselves to the earth for whatever reason? And it wasn't in a negative way. He was not stuck. He had kept himself attached to the kept himself earthbound for a reason, but not because he was in any distress or anything like that. It was more, he's what to hang around here and get a
Yeah.
message across to these two ladies. So then that's what makes me think, well then, if I've experienced it, does it then exist? Do you know what I mean? So I have all those things going on in my head. So that's that example. And of other ones, I've seen what would people would call ghosts, but I've there's a difference I feel between a actually not a difference at all. I believe a ghost is just a manifestation of spirit. But I
Yeah, me too.
think with the way that the world's put ghost out there, because ghost is not a spiritual word, people. Ghost was not made up by spiritualists. Ghost was put out there by society. And I think when people
Mm,
say the term ghost, I think people think that those people are stuck here because they're hanging around, right?
mm,
Not necessarily always the case. But manifestation is different. A manifestation is just spirits showing themselves to you in a more physical way. Um, I'll give you two examples out of the ones that I've had. So I remember in my flat in London, I just moved into with my other half, and we had a corridor, and one side of the corridor was the front door, and directly opposite was the archway to the kitchen, right?
oh, they love the corridors, don't they? I had
I
one too.
yeah, and I walked down the corridor, and as I turned to go left out the door, I caught a little boy under the archway in the kitchen.
Mm.
I went, oh, and my other half wasn't working that day, and he said, "What?" I said, "I've just seen a little boy in the kitchen. Have a nice day." And I went to work.
Left him there.
I left him there. Um, but it was on my mind so much that when I came home, I had to draw him what I saw, and
Mm.
I put it out on social media, and someone took that little boy. I wasn't planning to do a reading for her. It was more he just showed himself to me in my kitchen, to get a message out, which I did, and
See?
she validated everything. I thought that's a bit weird. And the other one I give you, do you watch? I don't know if I've told you this story. Do you watch Sense in Murder with
No,
Deb Webber? And
no.
that's because we've talked about her before. So it's an Australian show, and New Zealand, Sense in Murder, where you've got Deb Webber, Sue Nicholson, and some of the other psychics
One,
on there as well. So there's one episode. There was a little boy called Peter Boland, um, who went missing in a forest. I think he went on holiday to a farm with a load of people, and he went to find the horses. And they found the horses, and he was sent off to go back up to the farm to tell them they'd been found. Anyway, he went missing and was never ever found again.
mm,
And so I watched those episodes over and over again. And in my house where I am now, where I'm sat now, this was going back maybe 2 years ago, a year, 2 years ago. I was doing the washing up, and where my sink is, the entrance to the kitchen is like kind of to the side behind me, and that's where the stairs going upstairs is. And I was doing the dishes, I was just zoned out, and I kept hearing, I think, was it Boland in my head, and I thought, I don't know why, because I'd not watched at that point. I'd not watched those episodes for a while, although I did have watched them on repeat. Hadn't watched them for a while, and I just felt something behind me, and I heard Peter Boland. And as I looked around, that little boy was stood on my stairs,
really?
and he said it wasn't innocent and disappeared.
Mm,
And I think he was trying to tell me that his going missing was not an accident. Something else
mm,
happened. Mightn't go into it, but he said it wasn't innocent,
hmm.
and it disappeared. And I thought, am I losing the plot here? But I just very a quick vision of him on my stairs, in what he was, I perceived him to be wearing, and I heard his name in my head before I saw him, and then just went. And again, I think it's not. I don't think he was grounded or attached himself to this earth. It's just he just showed himself to me in that format, so I would have something visually to match to the name to trigger me
Mm,
to go, "Oh my God, I know who that is."
mm. There you
So
go.
all these things, so yeah, all these things that are always
I don't think
food for
they're
thought.
earthbound. I think that just like I've had so many show themselves before readings, or I'm not even going to read for someone, and then it's like their loved one coming through. And I think it's just because we're
Yeah,
so open and
yeah,
they cross our boundaries and they're just like, well, I don't care. I'm just going to push a boundary here to get that message to my loved one. You know what I mean? There's so many times I've seen
yeah,
physically seen,
yeah,
spirit. Um, even when I went on holidays, when we went to Tasmania, we went down to Port Arthur. Remember I was telling you about
Yeah.
I seen the lady with the baby, and she said, I just like this room. She sat in that room on the rocking chair with the baby. She said, this is the room that I like. Then there was another lady with purple on, walking through. And at one point, I also um, had the hands around my throat. Do you know what I mean? Like,
Mm.
so I felt all of those things, but I wasn't scared at all. I just kind of like, oh yeah, okay, righto. Just step back,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? Sort of, you
Yeah.
just kind of step back. But this is where, such heavy trauma has taken place, hundreds and hundreds of years ago, and even just not even hundreds of years ago, recently, where the gunman opened up and that sort of thing, like that's where trauma is sitting. That's where not necessarily where the loved ones are, because to me, I feel like the land there is quite healed. Do you know what I mean? There's been a lot of healing that has taken place. So again, the hauntings, is that like that sort of tapes that you were talking about? Because it
Yeah.
happens the same, and it's the same sort of photos people are getting, and it's the same sort of
Mm.
imprints and that sort of thing. So again,
Yeah.
is it just the imprints that are there? But
Yeah, but I think the important message here, people, is that spirit is not to be feared unless you're doing something which is maybe, I don't know, invoking them, or you're doing something evil yourself. There's nothing to be scared of. I mean, I can understand it. I mean, I don't want to wake up at 2 o'clock in the morning to see a spirit stood at the end of my bed. No, thank you.
mm,
I don't want that. But even if they did, they're not there to frighten me or to frighten you. Again, they're just showing themselves in a more, I guess, more physical way to let you know they're there, but they're not there to frighten you, to hurt you, or to harm you. A lot of that is just dramatized for TV to make you think that that will
mm,
happen to you. But again, if you've got good intentions and you're doing this work for the right reason, then
you're not, yeah.
you're not gonna be harmed from our opinion anyway, from our
No.
perspective.
And
Um,
if you are super sensitive and you see spirit, feel spirit when you go into buildings or that sort of stuff, what I usually do before I enter them, I just set the intention and just go to spirit. I don't want to feel it. Turn it
yeah,
down. Just
yeah,
picture that stereo volume. Turn it down. I don't want to be impacted. That's what I did before
mm,
I went to Arthur Finlay College. Before I went to Port Arthur, I just said to spirit, turn it down because I know I'm going to feel a lot. I still
yeah,
felt some, so
yeah,
it must be so strong because I turned it down. So
mm,
you have control again. You can
yeah,
turn it down. You can turn it off. Same with everything that goes on. People say, oh, I can feel this with the energies in the world, with this happening, and with all the election stuff and all that sort of stuff. You have the power to turn that down. If
mm,
you're super sensitive, turn it down.
yeah,
I had to turn it down. I turned it off. I don't want to know about what's going on in the world
yeah,
because I'm that sensitive. So you have that, you have the power to do all of that. You can be affected or you
yeah,
don't have to be affected. Easy as that.
yeah.
But
And
how's the energy in Arthur Finlay College? Holy,
I had
that
it. I
is.
I had a
Oh,
headache all day.
did you?
Yeah, I had a headache all day and left with. I went in feeling absolutely fine, and then I left and I had a headache from about being there for about 20 minutes. For the rest of the time that I was in there until I left,
So
I
strong.
had a headache because the energies that were in there. Um,
We did do
yeah.
midnight table tipping, doing all the bad shit you shouldn't do. They tell you that you're going to get kicked out doing. We did all of it.
Now, the only thing I'll say with that, though, for anyone that's new at doing that kind of thing, again, that goes more into the physical side of mediumship, which we won't necessarily get into. But if it come back to talk about earlier on about the protection, the only time really that I would protect myself is if I was doing something like a Ouija board, or not necessarily that you have to, but just my peace of mind, whatever else. And I've done Ouija boards, I've done table tipping, nothing negative happened. Actually, what did happen was quite
Mm.
exciting. Um,
Uh-huh.
but I think if you are someone's going to mess about with a Ouija board, then you get what you ask for. Basically, is what I say there. So if you're It's different if you're like when I did a Ouija board, I was doing it in my development circle, so in the safety of a spiritualist church, so we didn't need protection. Or I think we did do it anyway. Um, but you're there again with the best of intentions. You're only there using that Ouija board to communicate with spirit. So if a Ouija board is used correctly, it can be a great way to communicate with spirit. It's the same with table tipping as well. If you're doing it with
Yeah.
respect and you're doing it correctly, it can be a great way of getting that validation. But if you're going to be an asshole and want to take the piss out of spirit and mess about and invite in Tom, Dick, or Harry from the spirit world, then you might find that you might bring in something you don't really want to feel. I've had a lot of people come to me saying they've done a Ouija board never since and never felt the same because
Oh,
they were just messing about with it. There was no respect for spirit. It was all about, yeah, right, if you're there, come through, prove it. I don't think you, all that kind of just really derogatory stuff, then you
mm,
might get what you asked for. So in those cases, actually, in those cases, I'll probably say, well, don't protect yourself, just don't bloody do it. If you don't know what you're doing, don't fucking do it. If you haven't got someone in your group that's not trained to do it, don't fucking do it. Um,
exactly. Because you don't know who you're connecting to in that with that
Yeah,
sort of
because
work.
again, with us, when we're working, our intention is to connect with those at the highest good of all concerned. But there are
That's
some
right.
people who go into these things thinking, yeah, bring it on, I don't care, whoever comes in. Then you get what you
They
deserve,
ask,
basically.
but they
Yeah,
ask for the negative.
yeah,
They ask
exactly.
for the
So
bad ones. So
either protect
there you
yourself or
go.
just don't do it. Just don't be a gobshite. Just no. Just
Exactly.
be respectful, because at the end of the day, you're just antagonizing someone else's loved one in the spirit world, including your own people in the spirit world. So just think about it from that point of view. And I was going to
That's
say
it.
something else, and I've forgotten what I was going to say. Um, so it can't have been that important to talk about, really.
Yeah.
But I think it might be it. We've been talking for about an hour now, Glenda.
Yeah.
So it
Okay.
might be a good place to finish up, because yeah, that what I was going to say is just completely left my brain. And so if it comes back at another time, we'll talk about it at another time. But
Yeah.
there you go.
But send your questions through if you have anything you want us to talk about, or what you want our opinion on it, or we're good at waffling, so send it through.
You can
We're
tell.
happy. Yeah. We love a good chin wag.
Yeah. But yes, people, because what we'd like to do is do couple of listener questions episodes. So if you have questions based on what we've talked about today or in previous episodes, or you've got a new topic you want us to talk about or questions relating to it, then please do send them in. Either comment in the comment section in the podcast, wherever you listen to it, or send them in to Glenda. And Glenda, your email address is.
I don't know. What is it? Blender. I don't know. I can't
That's really great.
remember.
Isn't it Glenda-Marie1 at hotmail.com?
That's it. See, because I don't use my own one, I don't know
Oh.
it.
So yeah, so Glenda-Marie1, numeric one, not spelled out, just numeric one, at hotmail.com. So yeah, get them into us, people, because we'd like to answer your questions as well. To answer things that you want to talk about as well, rather than us just sitting here rabbiting on about certain things, which we enjoy doing. But we also want to make sure that you get out of it what you want to get out of it as well. So Glenda, it's
Yeah,
been a pleasure this
oh,
morning or your evening.
always, always.
And thank you always as for listening, people, and we'll see you in the next episode. Take care.
Bye. Thank you so much for joining us in the Spirit Lounge today. We hope you enjoyed the discussion.
Yes, and if there's a spiritual topic you'd like us to discuss, or if there's a spiritual question you'd like our input into, then please send those topics and questions to us at glenda-marie1 at hotmail.com, and we will get to them as soon as possible.
Lastly, if you could like and share this podcast, as well as leaving us a comment or review about what you thought, then that would really help us out and we'd be very grateful.
We would indeed. But it's bye from me.
And it's bye from me.
Join us again soon in the Spirit Lounge.